7 o'clock.
One more time.
Oh,
Hey, now,
How about
one for
that?
good measure.
There we go. The The February 12, 2014 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is hereby called to order. By roll call, we do have a quorum of members here on tonight. We're missing Ramesh and Mr. Ron Lee, whom we all wish a very speedy recovery during this time. I will entertain a motion for the minutes.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
A second.
Thank you. Show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Motion carries. Reports. Commissioners, are there any reports from any of you? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Nothing from the chair. Staff reports. Director of Development Services.
No report.
Thank you. Planning representative.
Yes, and I'm going to keep this evening short, I promise. Okay, I do have a report.
Okay.
Get comfortable.
Every time.
Okay. So, we did email to you all in early January when we got word that the City of Sugar Land is engaging their community, the public, in several land use forums. And this is part of their process to update their land use plan. It comes after they updated their comprehensive plan, which their city council adopted in 2012. And so we encourage you all to look at it as we embark later this year on updating our comprehensive plan and just looking at some of the issues and items that the City of Sugar Land is considering, and not necessarily copying it, but understanding, some of the interconnections that we have and some of the challenges that they have, we also face here. And so just taking a look at their forums. They started in late January. They'll continue them throughout the spring. But looking at their issues and just looking at some of the things that emerged from that. The very first forum at the end of January, Gary Smith, Scott Elmer, Commissioner Lee, and myself, we attended. And so I'm just going to kind of give you a brief overview of some of the items that came out of that. I watched the second forum via internet, which is a very good tool that they've incorporated in this process. And so both of those forums looked at demographics, changing demographics, things that we've heard about, things that we've talked about, just the impacts on this region, the Houston region, and Missouri City. They talked about it, obviously, in the context of Sugar Land. And then also just what attracts businesses to their community. And we're looking at what attracts businesses, obviously, to Missouri City. So some of the considerations, I'm not going to rehash their presentations. They are available on their website. And again, these are items that we've talked about, but these are questions that we need to consider for ourselves as we go through a similar process later this year. But just some of the emerging trends we all know, U.S., everywhere you go, the country is getting older and it's getting more diverse. And so what impact does these changes in demographics, choices that these changes in demographics make on household size, where you live, what recreation is available, what recreation is desired, how you travel, all of that impacts where our development and redevelopment will occur and how it occurs. So just a very quick snapshot from Missouri City. This is broken down in the different generations that are known. This is from 2000 to 2010, and we can see our largest populations are baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials. And so you see a decrease in population for baby boomers between 2000 and 2010, but it's still a sizable percentage of our population. And then you also see that Generation X and millennials make up over half of Missouri City's current population. So what does this mean? One slide, some of the speakers that Sugar Land invited for their forums included Mitchell Silver, who's the past one of the past presidents of the American Planning Association. And in his presentation that he's done throughout the country, one of the slides that he does is kind of break down some of the characteristics of each of the generations and what implication that has for land use and future choices. And I think it's an excellent slide, and especially for us to consider, who are we planning for? And then another note on that is, are we planning for past generations, or are we planning for future generations? What do they desire to see? How do they desire to live? And so those are considerations. There's different choices that baby boomers might make in terms of where to work, where to live, that millennials make. And so those are considerations that we need to ask ourselves and think about as we go through this process. And then diversity. We've talked about this. We know Fort Bend County has been considered the most ethnically diverse county in the United States. We know that Missouri City has been named one of the most diverse cities in this region. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean we're looking at one ethnic group dominating over another, but we're really looking at a population that is more balanced in terms of ethnicity in this area. And what ramifications or what implications does that have on our land use and the plans that we're making? Changing household size. These percentages were done by the popular Houston area survey that the Kinder Institute out of Rice University conducts. I think they do it on a yearly basis or an annual basis, but just housing choice. We know that Missouri City grew up as a bedroom community. We know that we have a tremendous stock of single-family homes. We know that that was desirable by certain generations, but will that continue moving forward? We've talked about through, the last comprehensive plan diversifying our housing stock, but this is a real consideration in terms of who we're planning for today and who we're planning for the future. And one thing I want to note, that Mitchell Silver talked about, again, on thinking about who we're planning for, the things that we see on the ground today were based on plans that were adopted years ago. And so what we're doing today is going to influence and impact what's going to be developed and what's going to come in the future. And so as we're considering, what we want Missouri City to be, how we want Missouri City to continue to develop, these are the kinds of characteristics that we need to take a look at. What characteristics are employers looking at? With changing demographics, you have employers that are seeking to continually attract the best, the brightest, whomever. And so with that, they're looking, at different lifestyle choices. One big difference between the generation, baby boomers might have moved to a city because of a job and built their lives, in that community because of a job, whereas millennials might move to a community, they don't have a job. They like the lifestyle, of that community, and then they'll find a job once they get there. And so that has implications for what kind of community are we developing, what kind of businesses can we attract and keep in our city. And then I always go back to landscaping, architectural design characteristics. These are still strong indicators of a quality community. We have this, we have these tools, we need to, continue to look at how we can make them flexible or work with the changes in design and, new technology. But these, again, play a role in what we attract to our community. So another point that I wanted to highlight with the Sugar Land Forum is also just their process. Because like I said, I watched the second forum online. They streamed it live online. They allow the public to submit questions and comments via Twitter, via Facebook, and they're using social media. And the implications that has is it brings the meeting outside of the physical location that the meeting is held in, and possibly brings in more people into the conversation. And so hopefully as we go through our comprehensive plan process, we can encourage the public in looking at the numbers of millennials and Generation X and all of these other generations that may have conflicts during set times during the day, but looking at ways to engage these different generations in the process. And then also just some of the traditional things in terms of, boards and, ways that people who actually attend the meeting, the physical meeting, can interact with the process, being able to provide that feedback. Different visioning exercises is, what they had. So what's the takeaway? The takeaway is we need to consider our demographic outlook for our community. We need to determine who we are, who's projected to be here as we walk through this process. We need to incorporate these voices in this process. And one thing that I think all of us took away from Mitchell Silver's presentation was the whole notion that we can choose to understand the demographics. The demographics are, the projections are the projections. Everything's pointing to we're going to grow, we're going to become more diverse. We can choose to plan for that, or we can choose to ignore it. We can choose, to do something completely different. But in the end, we're making a choice. And there are consequences to every choice, that we make. And so these are, just kind of, help to frame our conversation as we move forward, is that we want to make the best choices that we can for our community. So that was it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Good. Public Works Representative.
Excuse me, I apologize for that. Really no report other than just a quick update on Texas Parkway. The two projects we have going on, the Intersections project is moving right along, and we expect to see the new signals going up in the near future. And then the TxDOT project further down on the widening portion is moving along as well. So just keeping on track.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving towards the public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on items or concerns that are not on the agenda. Public comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per individual and to 5 minutes per subject. Public comments may address items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone? Thank you. 6A, plats. Consent agenda. Consider approval of a final plat for the crossing at Sienna Ranch Reserve A1.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded? Thank you, Doug. Are there any questions? All those in favor signify by your hand. Opposed? Thank you. 7A, this is a zoning map amendment. And it's also a public hearing and consideration for a planned development. It's a public hearing to receive comments for or against a request by Mabel Simpson to rezone an approximate 86.5748 acre tract of land from R1 Single Family Residential District to PD Planned Development District to allow for the use of private water and wastewater treatment and disposal systems for the development of one single-family dwelling and accessory structures. And to the extent such rezoning deviates from the future land use and character map of the comprehensive plan, to provide for an amendment therefrom. The subject site is located north of the West Point Estates and Oyster Creek Country Residential Subdivisions, south of the estates of Silver Ridge Residential Subdivision, and east of Black Creek Village Residential Subdivision. Jennifer?
Okay. As stated, this is a request to rezone roughly 86, 87 acres of land out south of the city, inside the city limits, obviously. And the request is really to allow for the use of the private utilities. The single-family home is consistent with the R1 district. However, in order to develop, as we have talked about, there aren't any public utilities that are within close proximity. The nature of most of the estate developments in this area are large acreage on private utilities. This land actually falls within the city service area, but there are no public utilities for this development to tie into. So the owners of the property have made this application in order to locate their single-family house and some accessory structures and to allow for the private utilities. Staff's recommendation is to allow them to use private utilities, which again is consistent with the other developments out in this area for residential developments. However, with that recommendation, staff is recommending to limit the uses within that planned development district to the one single-family house and associated accessory structures. The applicant's attorney is here tonight if you all have any questions about the specific development or if you have any questions of us.
Okay. Are there any questions of Jennifer first? Okay, questions from the applicant? Would you like to step to the podium? Hi, if you'll state your name, please.
Mabel Simpson, and I'm here on behalf of Joe and Tristan Durham
Okay, very well.
for the requested water, private water and wastewater.
Okay, good. I particularly do not really have any questions, just more so of a comment. As long as the owners are, they're content with it just being one single home forever and a day, and I think that's what staff has recommended here.
That's exactly their request. They have 4 small children. They don't want want any development other than their personal residence and a barn. But that's it. They have no desire to do any type of multiple family development at all.
All right, sounds good. Are there any other questions from the applicant? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
As this is a public hearing, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in regards to this application?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Gaspar. All those in favor to close the public hearing? Opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we submit this to City Council with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8, zoning text amendments. As this is a public hearing as well, for consideration for an amendment regarding vehicle parking in backyards. And gentlemen, this will be a final report tonight, and I just wanted to make a comment on tonight that we will either be choosing from either A or B on the plan, but we'll let Gary go.
We will certainly encourage you to choose from A. B may have been put together as a misunderstanding on my part.
Okay.
And it might paint with a broader brush than was intended. This is the second public hearing on this. We have not had public comment before. The purpose is to address the unusual circumstance that occasionally arises when people decide, excuse me, that their backyard is a good place to store a vehicle. I'm not talking about on their driveway, in their garage, or in a carport in the backyard, just in the backyard. As I recall, after Ike, when some fences were blown down, we discovered some vehicles in backyards, and we were quite perplexed on how they got there. Apparently, they were there before the fences. Otherwise, we don't know how they got the vehicles into the backyard. It happens on rare occasion. There's a location or two where we're working through this problem. And one situation, a person has chosen to put a vehicle on a trailer and put the tires of the trailer on the square concrete blocks that you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot and say, it's on a dust-free surface, y'all can't touch me, and it's behind the fence. State law would allow this if it is a collectible vehicle or if it's an antique vehicle. These may or may not be those, but generally we don't believe it is the Missouri City way to store vehicles in the backyard unless you're going to go to the expense of putting them on a driveway, putting them under a carport or in a garage that's behind the building line. What we do not want to do is prohibit people from doing what they are currently doing and what is presently legal. And that's under section 9.6, where you can put trailers, utility vehicles, horse trailers, RVs in your backyard if you screen it and you have it on a dust-free surface and it's not visible at a height of 6 feet from neighboring property. That is legal today. It will remain legal, and that also allows the storage of RVs, utilities and utility vehicles and trailers on large lots, an acre in size or larger, if they are placed behind the building line. Don't have to be screened, just large lot. They can be placed behind the building line, but they can't be on. Okay, I'm working from memory. I could be wrong. Can they be on grass or not be on grass? We talked about it earlier, and I'm looking at the council member. When we had the discussion, my recollection is they cannot be on grass. They have to be on a dust-free surface,
Even on the large acreage
on the
lot?
large acreage. So that, we're not changing those rules as they presently exist. This will primarily impact the smaller residential lots where people have chosen, and we don't want people to choose, just to put cars in their backyard and have a large collection of vehicles or a small collection or any kind of collection of vehicles in their backyard except on a driveway. It does not carve an exception to allow people on large acreage lots to store motor vehicles or automobiles in their backyard. The exception is for RVs, trailers, utility trailers, boats, and boat trailers. So we will not have junkyards popping up on large acreage lots. While I doubt that would happen very often, you worry about the exception to the rule. We did not write the authority for that. We recommend, at the conclusion of the public hearing, that the commission forward their report with a positive recommendation on the item A that is included in your packet. And it is the ordinance that starts with ordinance O-13. The 13 will change because that's the year that the ordinance gets adopted. It just so happens when this was drafted and was presented to you at the last meeting, we pulled these together early. The second one in your packet with the O-14 is not what we recommend. We're recommending the first one. And if I need to be corrected, I welcome corrections. She's being silent, so I guess I did okay.
All right.
Or I'll find out later.
Yeah. Probably. Commissioners, do you have any questions first here? Okay. As this is a public hearing, we do have one person here that has asked to speak. Bernard Orloff, are you present? Hi, sir. Would you step to the podium, please?
It's really not necessary to step up. After hearing Gary's synopsis of what they were proposing, we agree. I'm from Flounder Park subdivision.
Okay.
As you know or don't know, it's about a 45-year-old subdivision, so, excuse me, I'm being corrected from the wife. And we don't see a lot of this, but we have over the years. It's sporadic, but it's enough to irritate people that live around it. And since this is a subdivision, you live pretty much right next door to your neighbor. And you can see over the backyard fence sometimes and see those kinds of things. Plus, it breeds varmints. And a lot of the old homes out there are just, the exterminator is probably the most popular guy out there other than the plumber or Comcast, one or the other. So I agree with Mr. Smith. I hope that you guys look at, what is it, 013?
Yes.
And concur. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If I can explain a little bit further, those of you who do not know Mr. Orloff, he is a frequent visitor to code enforcement because he is very dedicated to his neighborhood of Fondren Park. Fondren Park is this year or next year having the 50th anniversary? This year, 50th anniversary, and if I'm not mistaken, it was the first subdivision in Missouri City.
Congratulations. Are there any others in the audience that would like to speak?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Thank you. Second. Mr. Gaspar, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Gary, I just have one quick question before we call for a motion. Will this be retroactive for those that are there now? Did it say it? It doesn't say it. I know where a bunch of them are.
Where are we putting it? It certainly will not be an ex post facto law,
Okay,
but
Google that.
there is a limited period of time, that's about all the Latin I've ever learned also, but there is a limited period of time in which a condition on land may continue after a zoning ordinance is changed. I believe it's 90 days. As I look back to my lawyer, hopefully, at the worst, 90 days.
Can live with that.
Yeah, we've
We've kind of touched on that.
dealt with that before, on
If it were a building,
this. Like the grace period for lack of a better.
I will continue to ramble to give E-Joyce an opportunity to get the correct answer for you. If it were a building, it continues until Section 16 kicks in and the nonconforming use is changed. But for activities such as putting a vehicle on the property, it's a very limited time, and then that right goes away.
Because that's an action, not at a, yeah,
If-
not a, an
That's right.
existing.
If I were to have my perfect world, I would have this over in the other regulations so that it would have immediate effect as soon as it's published. But if I have to wait 90 days to do it or 60 days to work on it, it's better than where we are today.
That's before you can even cite a warning on it, right? Yeah. Okay.
We can give them advice that it's fixing to change and
Yeah.
they can avoid
Well, that may not be a-
problems.
That may not be a bad thing.
Hey, Joyce, I think that we're okay. It was just more so a question out of curiosity, just as long as we have a way to enforce it, because I know that there are several that are existing currently. I think we'll be all right.
I'll double check for you and let you know.
All right, well, thank you. Commissioners, may I entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 13 unless someone's interested in 14?
I make a motion, we submit 13 to city council with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Goff. All in favor? Opposed? Very well. Motion carries. Gentlemen, I do believe we are adjourned unless there's something else. Very well, we stand adjourned.
Good meeting.
Can you believe it? Ma'am, let me tell you.